Have you ever wondered why some Christians seem to pray and everything seems to just come true? Whether it's finances, whether it's relationship help, um, you know, being healed, anything that you would think of that typically goes with a prayer warrior. Why is it that they are always getting their prayers answered? And maybe you're not. Maybe you're stuck a little bit. What is the difference between these guys and you? So, if you're new to the channel, my name is Todd Marenshaw, and this is Vision Made Real. I'm the author of Servant Leadership Unleashed, the owner of Allen Sportswear, part owner of Valor Pro Global, and we like to talk about everything that's related to Christian leadership and business. This is a channel based around the experiences of a Christian business owner and how I incorporate God into my everyday life. So, hopefully you'll like it, and if you do, make sure you follow, subscribe, like, whatever it is that whatever platform you're on that you can catch all my messages. Okay, back to the topic at hand. Manifestation, right? Manifestation and Christianity, right? Do they go hand in hand? Because I know in the New Age, there's a lot of people who like to make manifestation all about yourself, and they'll teach things like having spirit guides and using crystals and doing seances and all this other, I won't say crap, essentially to try to make what you believe happen. And, they do have part of it true where it comes to the way you think, the way you believe, the way you talk. Absolutely has a big impact in your life, but they miss a huge part of what is the true key to all this, and that's Jesus Christ. That is God, right? Trying to leave God out of the most important, is really the most important part. So it's a little bit funny and bizarre and sad at the same time, where it seems like nowadays people will do anything not to have to actually believe in God, including following all of his principles that were taught in the Bible, and yet trying to leave him out of the outcome or leave him out of being the one who's making it happen. So today we're going to explore a little bit about the Bible, what it talks about, what it commands, and how that pertains to manifestation and prayer. Also, we're going to bring up science, and how does science back the Bible in this? Now, the science to me is the more we learn, the more that science proves that the Bible is real, the more it proves that God is real, and this is no exception. So a few things that we'll talk about today when it comes to science is we're going to talk about the water crystals. You guys may have heard about that, but the water crystal experiment, and we're going to talk about quantum physics and the experiment we had with that. So these things are very important to me, and the reason why, and I'm going to go back a little bit back and forth here, is because about 3 years ago, and I would say at the beginning of my faith journey, and really understanding prayer, faith, manifestation, the thing that got me hooked was learning the science behind prayer. And when I looked at this, and I'm going to go in and switch, if you're watching this, you'll see what I'm going to here. I'm going to show the crystals here. There was a guy I had read about, Masaru Emoto. Now, I'm not sure if I messed that name up, but he's a Japanese businessman and an author who began publishing findings, and this has actually been done repeatedly, so he's not just him. Other people have actually done the same thing. But what he found is really quite phenomenal. What he found is that when you have certain emotions and you say certain things around water and then you freeze it, that it literally changes the crystallization of the water. It looks different. And whether it's, happy, sad, mean, evil, prayer, whatever it is, the crystal would change. It wouldn't just be one type or another type. It was every type. Every time you had a different emotion, you said a different thing around the water, and then you froze it, the crystals would come out different. Now, to me, this was already quite fascinating, but the more I read on it, the more fascinating it became, because it showed that every single thing that we say matters. That if our body is made up of 60% water, which I believe it is here, we look here, 60% water is made up in our body. And if the crystals are changing, or if the water is changing in our body, depending on what we say and what we think, can you imagine the good or the bad that is happening to your physical body, depending on what is in your mind. It's pretty incredible to think. 71% of the earth is made of water as well, right? And all of this is highly affected by what we say, right? And what we think. Okay, so if we look here, and I'm pulling up some images here, you look at the crystals here of thank you, of wisdom, truth, eternal, angel, I love you. If you look at these crystals, they're beautiful, and each one is unique. Each one is different. So the vibration that you're letting out when you talk, when you think these things, when you say I love you over and over again, when you say thank you, when you have gratitude, when you're telling the truth, and when you're imagining angels and these kind of things. Look at how beautiful these crystals are. I mean, they are really amazing. And then you look at you fool, you make me sick. When you have evil, you say evil things or evil thoughts. To me, it looks like a black hole. It's really nasty. And the most shocking part is if you look at the polluted water, right? It looks like nothing. It's just gross. And then you pray over the polluted water, and look how beautiful it gets. It makes you think about holy water, right? Back in the days, or I guess if you're Catholic, right, you still do holy water. And holy water, it seems to be real. Like, it literally changes it. It changes the water when you pray over it. And when you pray over your water, it literally changes. Which makes me think, hey, we should always pray over our water before we drink it, right? But looking at this, now, when I saw this, I thought, well, this is really neat. It's very profound. But then I started thinking about my body and thinking about how I'm made up of water. Well, what if I'm having evil thoughts? What if I'm having bad thoughts? What if I say horrible things about myself? What if I'm angry at my wife or my kids, and I tell them you make me sick, or you're a fool, or I hate you, or all these things? Even saying them right now gives me a feeling inside, right? Like my body reacts physically when I say these words. When I say I love you, I'm so thankful, I'm so happy, right? My body also reacts. I can literally feel it. Try it, right? Try it. Try to say these things and see if you can feel a difference in your body. So this proves that the water, and I would even say the blood in your body, changes according to your thoughts and according to the words that come out of your mouth. So can you imagine a lifetime of having evil, bad thoughts? What are you going to look like, feel like? You're going to be diseased? I always find people who are who have done evil things in their life, as they get older, they get hideous. Even if they're very attractive when they're young, they get very, very unattractive, very ugly. They typically get diseases. People who are always worried, right? What happens to them? They're always getting sick, right? Worry, 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 right? They're the ones who are always sick. Every time something bad happens, they get sick. They're worrying about this, worrying about that, and they get sick, and they get diseases, and they always have issues, and they wonder why. Well, here you go. It's literally showing you why. It's because you are polluting yourself with bad thoughts. You are actually polluting yourself. But a person who's led by prayer, who's at peace, who feels love and joy, their body is being healed by the very same process. The very same process, just feeling blessed, makes you blessed. It makes you feel happier, makes you healthier, makes your body happier, okay? And this is proven that it actually affects us, and it affects the outcome of our life and how healthy we are, how happy we are, simply by the things you think and say. So the second part of the scientific part of this is quantum physics, okay? So I'm not I'm not a scientist here, so I'm going to try to just kind of read some of this, and tell you how I take this and how it helped me. But let me just read this out. So in Israel, right, in 1998, one of the most bizarre premises of quantum theory came out, which is the observer effect. And a lot of people have read about this already. But a lot of times, even if we've read it, we don't really know how to equate it to our life. But essentially, it talks about is when a quantum observer, right, a person, right, is watching quantum mechanics states that particles can also behave as waves, right? So, and this is also true for electrons at a submicron level, at a distance, at distances measured less than 1 micron or 1/1000th of a millimeter. Okay, so the experiment revealed that the greater the amount of watching, the greater the observer's influence on what actually takes place. Okay? Layman's term right there. Again, it goes on to say, as strange as it may sound, interference can only occur when one is watching. Once an observer begins to watch the particles going through the openings, the picture changes dramatically. If a particle can be seen going through one opening, then it is clear it didn't go through another. In other words, when under observation, electrons are being forced to behave like particles and not like waves. They change. Literally, they change. Subatomic particles change when you watch them. Electrons are being forced to behave like particles and not like waves. Thus, the mere act of observation affects the experimental findings. This is fascinating. And I'm not even a scientist, and this is fascinating. Okay, so anyways, to demonstrate this, Weizmann Institute researchers built a tiny device measuring less than 1 micron in size, which had a barrier with 2 openings. They then set a current of electrons through the barrier. The observer in this experiment wasn't human. Institute scientists used for this purpose a tiny but sophisticated electronic detector that can spot passing electrons. Okay? The quantum observer's capacity to detect electrons could be altered by changing its electrical conductivity or the strength of the current passing through it. Apart from observing or detecting electrons, the detector had no effect on the current. Yet the scientists found that the very presence of the detector, the observer, near one of the openings caused changes in the interference pattern of the electron waves passing through the opening of the barrier. In fact, this effect was dependent on the amount of the observation. When the observer's capacity to detect electrons increased, in other words, when the level of the observation went up, the interference weakened. In contrast, when its capacity to detect electrons was reduced, in other words, when the observation slackened, the interference increased. Okay, so thus by controlling the properties of the quantum observer, the scientists managed to control the extent of its influence on the electron's behavior. Now here's a link below. You can read it all on your own if you so desire. So, and I did not get this information on my own. These are obviously the stuff that I looked up, so I will have the links available if you want those. What does this all mean? This means, to me, as a Christian who believes in God, this means this very world was created for us, just like the Bible says. It was created for us. The whole world reacts to us. It reacts to us observing it. Right? The water reacts to the way we talk. The whole world reacts to our vibrations that we give out when we're positive or negative or angry or happy. What does this mean on a bigger level? This means prayer works. This means if we pray, it actually affects people. It affects us. This means that when a church gets together and they fast together and they pray for something, that it literally can affect an entire world. That you can send out ways that you can literally change the world with prayer. Okay? And the Bible talks about when we were made, right? God made us in his image, that there's a piece of God inside of us. And the Bible talks about also, where is the church? The church is within you. Where is the Holy Spirit? The Holy Spirit is within you. Okay? Well, what is God trying to tell us over and over and over again? It is within us. The power is within us. Okay, when you're sitting there and you're praying and you're looking up and you're on your knees and you're looking up to the heavens and saying, help me, God's telling you, I'm already there in you. I'm already there in you. Okay, the power is already in you. It's not our power, it's his power, but it is in us. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, let's take some Bible scriptures and let's figure this out. How do we use this as Christians? How do we use science? How do we use the understanding that the whole universe reacts to our prayers, to our beliefs, and to our thoughts? How do we use this as Christians? Okay, if we look here at a few scriptures, Hebrews 11, 1 through 3. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what scientists think. We're talking about scientists here. So I'm on this big thing with scientists right now. All right. Let's do that one again. This is what ancients were commended for. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. There you go. That literally is giving you the exact formula for answered prayer. For what is seen was not made out of what was visible. It was imagined first. Think about that. It was imagined first, and through imagination, it was created. Ephesians 2, 8 through 10. For it is by the grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Okay? We are God's handiwork. We are made by God. Right? We are made by God, and God resides in us. The Holy Spirit is inside of our bodies. It is literally in us. The power is in us. It is not out there. It's in here. 2 Corinthians 5:7, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Okay, Mark 11, 22 and 23. And there's a lot of scriptures, guys. These are just a few. Okay. Have faith in God, Jesus answered. Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, go and throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them. Okay, what mountains are in your life that you need to throw in the sea, right? What mountains are in your life? What do you need to get thrown in the sea? What did he mean by this? This is what he's telling you right now. You got to believe it. You have to feel it, right? And when you believe it and you feel it and you give it to him, he will make it happen, okay? James 2:18. But someone will say, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. What does this mean? This to me, well, I always thought what this meant was, well, you're supposed to go out and you're supposed to work, and you're supposed to do a lot of things, and you got to serve at the church, and you got to do all that, and this is me showing my deeds. I don't think that's what this says at all anymore, okay? What I believe it is saying is very clear to me, is that when you have faith and you pray with faith, true faith, that miracles happen. Those are your deeds, right? Those people, the prayer warriors, they pray for someone, they're healed. That is faith showing itself through deeds, right? God answering your prayer. God answering your prayer. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused when they go, oh, you got to, they feel like if they work really hard, they can get to heaven. And then there's other people who say, no, it's only by faith. You can't work your way to heaven. And sure, but I think both sides are missing something, because if you have faith, deeds will be happening everywhere around you, right? Blessings will be happening everywhere around you. Prayers will be getting answered everywhere around you. If you're trying to say you have faith, but your life is dull and nothing's happening and no lives are being changed and no prayers are being answered, you don't have faith. You don't have the deeds to prove you had faith, right? Deeds will show your faith. Without deeds, you don't really have faith. You're not doing it, right? It's not happening. So what does that mean, right? What does that mean for us now? So for this, I want to just talk for a minute here about my life, about how learning all this changed my life 3 years ago. And hopefully this will help guide you into how to apply it to your life as well. So a little over 3 years ago, I lost my home in a hurricane. And there was a huge flooding, and our house was destroyed, just absolutely destroyed. And it's a big house out in the middle of the woods. So when it was destroyed, we went to our insurance company and tried to put in claims. And we were immediately, they were like, I don't know, we'll get back to it, and, when we get back to you. So we were still paying our mortgage, and we needed to go pay for rent. And we have 4 kids, and everybody's going to school. And I had to find out how to get money for all this. To say it was expensive would be a massive understatement. I didn't know how I was going to live. And when this happened, I was horribly depressed. I mean, just sit out in front of my patio drinking a beer and staring at the sky depressed for hours on end. And this went on for probably 2-3 weeks, where I just kind of sat there with whatever rental place we were at. We were doing Airbnbs every week. We couldn't even find a rental house yet. And I would just stare at things. I literally couldn't function. To say I was sad would be a massive understatement. And on top of that, I'm a veteran. I was in the military. I have a little bit of PTSD and things like that, and that wasn't really helping my case. I'm struggling here a little bit here. I'm having a hard time mentally. It was a very hard time in my life, very hard time, and I really wasn't sure how I was going to get through it. And that's when I read these scientific studies, and then I went through the Bible and I started rereading all the scriptures about faith, and I was like, oh my gosh, I missed it. Like, I missed what it was saying. And it changed completely the way I started praying. And I went from begging God, getting angry at God, yelling at God, wondering God didn't hear me and answer me, to spending 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, another 5 to 10 minutes in the evening, depending on what's going on, and just getting into a deep meditative state with God where I'm relaxed. And I would imagine what I needed as if I already had it. That's the best way to put it. I needed money. I needed a place to stay. So I would imagine I'm in a place and we're happy and the bills are paid. And I would think about it and imagine it and put a scene in my head until I felt it. And that's the key. Without the feeling, this doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You must feel it. I would feel it. I would feel the prayer fulfilled. I would feel the prayer fulfilled and what it felt like, and just be like, and I would breathe out in relief that my bills are paid. I'm okay. God's got me. And I would imagine I'm sitting next to Jesus and we're chilling, right? We're just chilling like the boys. We're hanging out. And I'm sitting in our place, wherever this place was. I'm imagining my bills are paid. I'm okay. I'm okay. And I would do this 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, and I would do it in the evening. And I began to not panic as much. My depression started lifting, and I had horrible depression. I started feeling better and better. And then within a week of doing this, we got a check in the mail for $10,000, right, from the government. We didn't even know why. And when I checked, they said, oh, they found something, an error in a past tax, something that we had put in 3 or 4 years ago. What? Like, they found an error and just sent us money back out of nowhere? Like, has this ever happened in human history? I didn't know. It gave us the money we needed to pay a down payment and to get into a home and to pay our first couple, month of rent and to buy food. Like we had money, and I didn't know how we were going to pay. And I was shocked. I was like, does this really work? Did this work? So I said, okay, well, I'm gonna keep going, and I just started doing it every day, and I would pray that each month that money would come in, that we'd be taken care of, and that we'd be okay. And it was like clockwork. We'd get some weird check, or some church would do a fundraiser without us knowing, and give us food, or they would give us money. I was talking to my son one time. We were driving in the truck, and I was explaining what was happening, about how every time I envision what I need and get myself in the state fulfilled, right, where I feel what I would feel if it's fulfilled, and I really envision it and stick it in my mind, and then give it to God, that my prayers keep getting answered. And not always in the way I would see it, but he did just always be answered. And he's like, yeah, I don't get it. I'm not, and he's trying. He was a teenager. And he's trying to figure out how this works. And all of a sudden I got a call, and a guy that I knew who was an assistant coach of mine when I was playing football, who was also a pastor at a church that I did not go to, called up and said, hey, are you around? I have something for you. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in the area, I guess. I was driving, and I just happened to be about 2 minutes from where he said he was at. And I drove right up. He didn't even get out of his truck. He drove up to me. He handed me $1,000 check, and he drove off. And I was like, what? And my son was in the back seat, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, it works! It works!" He was absolutely mind blown that this just happened right in front of his face, as he was talking about it and wondering how it works and being skeptical. And I was like, God, there you are. You're not only showing that you are answering my prayers, but you now just gave my son faith. And boy, was that an amazing moment in my life. So this went on for 3 years. We lost our home for 3 years, and we did not get our home back the way I thought and the way I even was praying about. I kept trying to envision how it would feel if the insurance company would give us more money, because they only wanted to give us about 1/10 of what we needed to build the house, maybe a fifth. I think about with both insurance companies combined was about a fifth, and we kept repealing, and I kept manifesting or trying to like pray and God, this is how it's gonna feel when I win, and I never did, and I was getting discouraged, and I'm like, well, what's going on here? But something else happened. And here's the thing, and this is where I learned a very important part, is you cannot micromanage God. You can only envision the ending and how you would feel when you got it. But how you get there is completely up to God. Completely up to God. And if you try to micromanage him, you will run into roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. It won't happen. It's just not going to happen. So this was part of my maturation, right, into learning this. And in learning how to actually talk and speak and pray with God, and how he actually answers. And one day, the SBA, who we had applied for, they had a program for people who lost their home in disasters like we had. They had called and said, okay, you got approved, which is great. So with their money plus the insurance money, we had almost half of what we needed. And at this point, I had already contacted a general contractor and asked him to get started on faith. And he's a good man, very good man, and he got started in our home, even though we only had, at that time when he got started, a fifth of what we needed. So we had like the structure built, and because our house was flooded, we had to build it up, put pillars. I mean, it was ridiculous. It's just a lot of work put into it. So all the money we have from the insurance just went to building pillars, just so we could get started. And then we had no money. So right before he's going to stop working, the SBA calls and says, they got money for us. Great. We continue on. The money that they gave us covered just enough to pretty much build the floor. So we could build the floor of the house, and pay for, all the people we needed to pay for to kind of just get everything started, and the paperwork and all that. Engineers, there's a lot of stuff that goes into building a home. So it paid for all that stuff plus a floor. And we were out of money again, and the contractor was about to stop working, and I just kept, every night and every day, I just kept focusing on being in my home, and I'm happy, and I'm drinking a coffee, and I'm looking out over the patio, and I'm talking to God, and I'm like, this is beautiful, this is amazing, thank you for this home. And I just kept thanking him for this home that we had no money for, right? Every morning and every night. And every single time for 2 years, because we started building it, took about 2 years from beginning to end. Every time we needed money, the SBA we would get a new person. Like every time we had like someone with the SBA, they'd say, there's nothing more we can do for you. We cannot help you anymore. And then every 2 to 3 months we need money, we'd get reassigned someone new. And the new person would come in and say, hey, I think I found a way to get you more money. And they would get us more money. And then a few months later, we would lose them, and a new person would come in, and they would the same thing would happen. We'd be like, "Oh, we're out of money," and they go, "Well, I think I found a way to find you money." And this kept happening for almost 2 years, all the way to pretty much the very end. And to top it off, at the very end, we had a property we had forever that we just been renting. We couldn't get rid of forever out in California, and I ended up being able to sell that to pay for the rest of the home. So in the end, through prayer, God kept providing over and over and over again the money needed to rebuild our house. Always right before we needed it, but not in the way I ever would have imagined. Right? If I tried to micromanage God and be like, this is the only way, I have to win against the insurance company, I have to get it this way, which is what I started doing at first, then I would have just met frustration after frustration after frustration, which I did. I felt very frustrated for a long time with the insurance companies. But when I let it go and just focused instead on the end, on just being happy that I'm in my home, feeling blessed that I'm in my home, feeling like, I'm on top of the world, and having the emotions, right? Allowing myself to feel the emotions of having gotten back into my home, right? Not just thinking of it in my mind and praying to God, but feeling it, truly feeling as if I was already in it, right? Every morning and every evening, I had to pretend with feelings I was in my home. And I did that nonstop for 2 years. And the day that I actually walked up and sat there and looked out over the balcony, it looked exactly like my vision. Exactly like my vision. It was incredible. And this home, it didn't just help me and my family have faith. It helped everyone. When they were building this house, we would come into this home essentially every day. Every single day we would come and we would pray over it. And the workers would see us. And then we started coming in with Sharpies and we would put prayers on the flooring and on the boards and around the windows and around, before they went in. And every part of the house, we would put scriptures and scriptures and scriptures every day. And we would invite our friends over and they would see it and they would put their own scriptures. And then I noticed something incredible. Like I would come in and walk in the house and I would see scriptures that I knew we didn't put or our friends put. And I realized it was the workers. The people building the home were so impacted, they started writing scriptures all over our home. We had scriptures everywhere. And the attic, on the floor, on the walls and ceiling, everything had scriptures. And everybody was writing them. And when people would come over to the house, everyone was saying, I have such a feeling of peace in this home. And it's because this house was blessed by so many people, dozens and dozens and dozens of people. It was blessed. So this home, right, that I prayed about, that I manifested through prayer, wasn't just for me, it's for everybody, right? It affected everyone, right? It affected dozens and dozens of people, all through a simple prayer. And what was that simple prayer? Just sitting on the patio, sitting next to Jesus, smiling and thanking him for my amazing home. Feeling it, truly feeling how beautiful and awesome it was. And he kept providing time and time again. Anyways, just thinking about it really gets me going because to this day, I just think about this and I feel so blessed. And I am reminded of how incredible God is every time I talk about this story. But I want to leave it off there and encourage you today to truly learn about how to manifest through prayer, how to manifest through Jesus Christ, how to believe in the end, feel the end, and let God take care of the rest. So until next time, guys, please again, like, subscribe if you like what you're hearing here. Would love to hear back, any comments or anything like that. But until next time, guys, be blessed. Take care.